No problem. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And the next item on the agenda is would everyone please rise for a moment of silence, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, and Dr. Maxwell will introduce those that are going to lead us in the pledge. Thank you.
So tonight we have two young ladies from Cumberland County High School. We have Miss Elsie Doris with us, and we also have Miss Anna Davidson, and they will lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies, thank you very much.
It's hard to see the flags back there.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, ladies.
All right. I'd like to welcome all of our visitors. Thank you for being here. And I see that Miss Julia Timpson is back with us this month. Miss Timpson, do you have anything you want to share with us?
I am delighted to know that we had so many great reports across our county for our TN ready testing, and I just want to thank Dr. Maxwell, because if it were not for good leadership, letting teachers teach, we couldn't get that done, so I do appreciate that. I also do want to stress, and I know the board's brought it up many, many times, we've got to have bus drivers and substitutes. We've got to. We're really doubling up. A lot of teachers are having to cover classes quite a bit, and I know it's a problem everywhere, and I know there's nothing that you can do tonight. I know it's not on the agenda tonight, but I just wanted to bring it up once again. If anybody in the public is listening right now and you would like to substitute drive a bus, please come help us. I promise we'll treat you as good as we can, and we'll do whatever we can for you, but it is really, it's getting to be a dire situation, and we do have to do something.
What do you think besides COVID issue, are there any other issues that
I think pay is one thing.
they,
For subs and bus drivers?
If I may, when I was subbing for the district, it was less than a teenage babysitter would get per hour. That'll give you an idea.
oh yeah,
It's
Well, over the years, the board has increased the amount for substitutes. Now, can it go up? Absolutely. And as for bus drivers, the same. But yes, if there's anybody out there that wants to substitute or wants to drive a school bus, please contact us as soon as possible. Because and this is a nationwide problem. It's not just right here in Cumberland County. It's nationwide. Yes, ma'am.
Question. Do you think if we reviewed and increased the pay for subs and bus drivers, do you think that would encourage?
I believe it would. I mean, I really do believe it would.
I think the other issue is people don't know how easy it actually is and how rewarding it is. So they train you. It was some of the most fun I ever had when I was substituting in high school.
Well, and if I may, the good news is we did have substitute training yesterday, and we had 9 people show up.
Yay.
We had there were almost 40 people that had called and asked to be trained in what we needed to do. 9 of them came, which is good. So we have 9 new names to add to the list. That's not nearly enough, but a little ray of hope.
How many people are on the substitute list that we utilize? And that's information you would.
Hundreds. I mean, there really are hundreds of people on there.
We use that many
But we
subs.
only have 6 that come to
It's,
that will answer.
They only want to come to North.
Yeah, and they don't all, we got a lot on the list, but not all will answer their call or are able
Yeah,
to
it ain't
come.
happening.
right.
Jenny? I-
Yes,
I
Mr.
began
Safety.
this discussion, and I apologize. Perhaps we should officially talk about it
In other business.
in other business. Is that a good idea?
We can do that, or, on the agenda, we also have the board retreat. We can also discuss it in the board retreat.
That would be a good idea, because that's just a month and a half away.
Yeah, and so, yes, this is something we need to be discussing, and we'll be bringing it up. Okay? All right, thank you, Ms. Timpson. All right, Dr. Maxwell, do we have any special recognition tonight?
we do not at
Okay,
this time.
so we'll move on to roll call. Mr. Safety,
I am here, sir.
Ms. Paris,
Here.
Ms. Hale,
Here.
Mr. Brock,
Here.
Mr. King,
Here.
Ms. Hamby,
Here.
Ms. Boston,
Here.
Ms. Cargy,
Here, happy and merry.
Chairman's here. Okay, so everyone is here. All right, next item is the declaration of conflict. Mr. Patton.
Board members, Tennessee Code annotated Title 49, Chapter 22-202 defines relative as a spouse, parent, parent-in-law, child, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, grandparent, grandchild, brother, sister, uncle, aunt, nephew, niece, or any person that resides in the same household as you. Any of you with such a relative who is employed by the school system, please raise your right hand and let the record reflect Mr. Inman, Mr. Brock, Ms. Boston. Any of you that have such a relative, do you hereby certify that the votes that you make tonight will be in the best interest of the Cumberland County School System, regardless of the effect that your vote may have upon the employment of your relatives?
I do.
Let the record reflect all affirmative.
Thank you, Mr. Patton. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the October minutes.
Move to approve.
Okay, I've got Ms. Cargy as, and Mr. King second. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve.
Okay, Ms. Hamby with the motion,
Second.
Ms. Cargy with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. All right. Next item is the community comments. Ms. Diane, I don't think anybody signed up for community comments, so we'll move on. Acknowledgement of elected officials. I don't see any, but if there's anybody out there, let me know, please. Okay. All right. And next item is school board reports. Mr. Safety, the TLN report.
Yes, I have several issues, but I think the most important one is a special session of the state legislature. They passed a piece of legislation allowing Santa Claus to come down our chimneys without wearing a mask and permitting them to place presents under trees. So I think that's an important innovation that's happening now, and I think we should all be grateful for it.
Thank you, Mr.
You're welcome.
Kids are very excited.
It's a very exciting time.
That'll definitely make the kids
Yeah, world
happy.
living.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Safety.
You're welcome.
All right. Next item is a board members report from training. I know several of us went to the TSBA annual convention. Does anybody? Ms. Hamby.
I would just like to say the speakers this year at the conference were outstanding. It was very moving and touching. I feel like we learned a lot. It was a great conference this year.
And Legal Jeopardy was a lot of fun. We had a good time.
Jeopardy was fun. We had a good time.
I missed out on that one. I went to another one. But yeah, there were several sessions that we went to and learned a lot of good information. Learned some information that we didn't like. But all in all, it was a really good convention.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the one thing there are two things that I picked up. One was the issue related to my comments about free speech in the classroom and the legislation that the legislature passed and the governor signed, making it illegal for 14 items to be discussed in the classroom. And this primarily, my concern was free speech. I was told by the lawyers there in a question that I asked that teachers in the elementary school and high school are under contract. And this contract specifies that they follow the state guidelines. The state guidelines for their curriculum. The curriculum can be taught in a lot of different ways, just as long as the criteria is met through the state. So my comment 3 months ago was that there's an issue of free speech involved in it, and I was told, no, there's not an issue of free speech because our teachers, there might be free speech in the college system, which I have a background in, but teachers in the elementary and high school do not have free speech and must stick with the criteria of the state. So that's one thing so I would like to apologize because of my personal bias related to teaching. I didn't realize, but I was set straight by the lawyers there, okay? So the next issue was the mask issue, the mask mandate, and I felt like when I read the legislation that the board did not have a say-so in if a school had to be closed or if a school had to if the COVID cases increased to a certain point, that the board really had no jurisdiction in that, because the legislation is written kind of ambiguous. At least I thought it was ambiguous. But again, I was straightened out by the lawyers at the meeting, and they said, no, the principal has a primary responsibility when a certain level is reached with COVID cases or any illnesses, from my interpretation now, then they must make the request to either not quarantine, but either close the school or have their students wear masks. And Ms. Ina, if you know more about that, I'm sure you have discussed it with your principals.
We are still learning about that.
Okay. So again, I would like to apologize because I thought that the board did not have any final discretionary powers, but it has to go through the system and finally to the board. But it has to begin with the principals.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Safety.
I could have included that in the TLN report, but I thought Santa Claus was more appropriate.
Okay. Ms. Boston?
I just wanted to check with Dr. Maxwell. Did you were you able to go down to the BEP meeting?
Yes.
Did you learn anything?
We don't have any example of what student-centered funding looks like at this time. So they told us that they would also be setting up meetings with boards of education, county commissioners, county mayors, directors of schools. So I'm looking towards an invite to come to all of us. It hasn't come yet in my email. And later in Ms. Harris's report tonight, she's going to share a little bit more information about the Tuesday night
I
meeting.
was told off.
All right, next item on the agenda is the legal report. Mr. Patton.
Nothing new to report. Good. The only pending litigation is the Jewel litigation, and I have no updates for you there.
Thank you, Mr. Patton. I like those kind of reports.
Those are the best kind.
Yes. The next item on the agenda is the board retreat. We need to try to look at our calendars and try to see about when we want to do the retreat, and I'm assuming we'll do it here unless somebody has has any other ideas. And
Assuming Bahamas
And-
is out of the question.
yes, the Bahamas is out of the question. But
January 15th,
January 5th,
15th.
5th, first weekend in January.
That's a Wednesday. The 5th is a Wednesday.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. How about that? I'm going to be gone
And I don't want to hear.
February 9th, January 9th until February 20th. So if we could have if I miss it, I miss it, okay?
I hate for you to miss it, Mr. Safety.
I'm out 4 days, so.
Oh, well,
We're doing it all in one day, right?
yes, we can do it all in one day. Last year, we did it in 2 days because we were on Zoom, and
Yeah.
and we just didn't feel like that we could do a full 7 hours.
Out
On-
the 5th of February?
When are you coming back in February?
February 20th.
February 20th. Wow. You're going to take a long trip.
It's been coming for 3 years. I haven't been any place.
Let's see,
Do what you have to
February.
do.
Well, let's see. Our regular board meeting is the 24th of February. What about February 26th?
That's a Wednesday. February 26th?
February
I'm
26th.
good with that.
Mr. Safety?
I'm good with that.
Okay. Anybody else? I mean, I don't think there's anything pressing that we have to do right now. Mr. Brock, February 26th?
That sounds good from this date, but
All right. Ms. Hale?
2 months should give me enough time
Is
to
Chris okay?
prepare.
Is Chris okay?
I think so.
Yeah, that's.
All right. Dr. Maxwell?
I think more than anything, he did not want to cough and interrupt and cause any concern.
What would the times be?
It's like 8 to 3 or 8 to 4.
Yeah, it seems like we've done it in the past. Yeah, it has to be 7 hours, so
7:30 to
like 8 to 3 or something like that.
Thank you, Jim.
Does that sound right? And gives us time for lunch, or we can work through lunch.
You gonna cook us a good lunch?
No. You don't want me cooking. Okay, so we're going to say February 26th.
Thank you.
Okay.
And what time? 8 to 3?
Yeah, we'll say 8 o'clock in
Okay.
8 to 3. Okay. Any other discussion on the board retreat? Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is the director's report. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Maxwell.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Inman. The first item, 15A, we have the Cumberland County School Nutrition Program is applying for a National School Lunch Program Equipment Assistance Grant, and this is hopefully for a new walk-in cooler and freezer at South Cumberland. And the rough guesstimate is that it would cost approximately $75,000, but this grant is not one that we know how much we would be getting. And Ms. Hamby is here if you have any questions, but it does require board approval.
I make a motion, second.
Okay. Ms. Cargy with the first and Ms. Hamby with the second. All right, is any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion
Okay.
carries.
The next item is the Cumberland County School Nutrition Program's annual report and program overview. And Ms. Hamby provided lots of great information for us regarding her program that she oversees. And I would just like to say that she does a tremendous job ensuring that our students' needs are met. And we do appreciate all the work that she does. And she is here if you have any questions that you would like to ask or comments. She'd be glad to answer.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Hamby.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Hamby.
Thank you for dinner.
Okay.
How does she do it?
She's Wonder Woman. I bet you turkey, now you want to take a nap.
I love your job.
It's evident every day she has a smile on her face. The next item, 15C, these are state CTE grants for our middle schools for Pineview South and Brown Elementary. And this is exciting what our middle schools are venturing into with the college, career, and technical education programming. And Dr. Maddox is here, and he'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Can we make a motion to
Yes, we
approve
need-
all four at once?
Yes.
I make a motion, we approve all four.
Second.
Austin made the motion and Ms. Hamby made the second. Okay. And now, any discussion? Anybody have any questions for Mr. Maddox? Oh, come on, somebody's got to have a question. Put him on the spot.
Now, where do we get this grant money from? The federal government?
I didn't hear it.
Where do we get the grant monies from?
This came from the state of Tennessee. It was a state innovative high school grant
Okay.
sponsored by Tennessee. Now, where they got the money from, well, probably the federal government.
Any further questions? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next item, 15D, is the High Quality Instructional Materials Literacy Implementation Network Grant. This is part of the Reading 360 that we were awarded a partnership with as a partnering district back in March. And Ms. Barnes is not here tonight. She and Dr. Farley are in Nashville tonight. The state is recognizing the past 2 years regional winners of Principal of the Year and Supervisor of the Year, and that recognition was tonight. So that's where they are at the moment.
I make a motion, we approve.
Okay.
Second.
Ms. Hamby with the motion and Ms. Carney with the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, 15E is the Tennessee All-Core Grant that you've heard me speak about. This is the Tennessee Accelerating Literacy and Learning Corps. And Ms. Burnaby is here tonight if you have any questions.
Ms. Carney with the motion, Ms. Hamby with the second. All right, is there any discussion? Yes, Ms. Boston.
We have money in the Esser 2 for the interventionist. Where will this instruction money go?
There will be, right now, with the amount of students that we're supposed to serve, there will be 13 tutors hired
After school, during school?
during school.
During school.
That's what they recommend. We could have done after school, but it was going to be a tremendous amount of people we would have to hire for an hour and a half after school.
So 13, one in each elementary, how are we doing this?
No, 6 schools have decided to join this.
participate.
And so, based on their numbers, we're going to serve about 429 children.
Is that what the principals turned in? This is what we need?
The principals were given their students that were approaching based on TCAP scores,
Right.
and that this grant is targeting those students.
So these are referred to as tutors. The other one are interventionists.
Yes, they're certified teachers. My
Tutors.
tutors are going to be assistants.
Okay, so these do not have to be certified.
No,
The interventionists are certified.
correct.
Okay, gotcha. That's all I have.
Any further questions? All right, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next item, I have just a brief Esser monthly report. The first bullet was Ms. Darcy covered with the high dosage tutoring. The state is sending us reports monthly to tell us how much funding has been spent down from each Esser. 98% of Esser 1 funds have been spent. It would have been at 100%, but a vendor gave a discount, which, in hard times you want those discounts, but you want a discount anytime. But so there'll be some adjustment there. 16% of the Esser 2.0 funding has been spent down, and implementation continues. The requests for qualifications for project engineering for Esser 2 are in the process. We have proofread some drafts, and we're hopeful that proposals will be out soon. Esser 3 is still in the review process at the state level. We did receive some feedback on the community engagement plan of Esser 3, and it was stated that our student feedback was low in comparison with our student enrollment. So our Federal Programs Department has been in the process of gathering additional student feedback. 2 grade levels from each school have been chosen randomly to participate in the focus group, and they received the same feedback sheet that was used in August. Initial analysis of the data shows consistency with the original data collection in August. As soon as we receive approval for Esser 3, I will send you all an email and with stars and all around it.
2 questions.
Yes, ma'am.
So the 98%, that other 2%, do we have to send back to the federal government?
We will work diligently with our regional consultant
See
to,
if we can reallocate?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
And then the feedback was received from our
This is from the, it's from the consultant assigned to our region.
perfect. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, the next item is our annual planning calendar, and I can't believe how time flies. You will see that we have accomplished most of these tasks, and we will be accomplishing more as the months progress, and the rest of the information contained within my packet is for your information if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the school board committees. Mr. Brock with the policy committee.
Thank you. We'll make it easy tonight. We do not have any first readings for the first time in a long time, so that was a nice break. But we do have 3 policies on up for second reading, and I'm sure you had an opportunity to look at them last month, and as well as this one.
Since these came out of committee, they don't need a second. So is there any discussion on any of them? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Brock. Mr. Brock, is there anything from the athletic committee?
Not presently, but we will be busy this winter. So.
Okay. All right, and Mr. King will be back in a few minutes, hopefully. And Building and Grounds Committee, Mr. Safety, anything to report?
We had no meeting this month.
Okay, thank you, sir. And Ms. Boston, Contract Committee.
Yes, we have several contracts that the contract committee met and discussed and approved and sent to the full board. The first one is the aviation Azure flight training. And the second one is the volunteer behavioral health memorandum of understanding, the TSBA policy manual agreement, the MOU with the Cumberland Mountain Mental Health, and the literacy grant contract. The contract committee went over these very thoroughly, and we would recommend that the full board approve.
Okay, do you want to vote on them all 4 together?
Unless someone has objections.
And then we have the train service agreement also.
And the train service agreement. Thank you.
Yep.
And unless someone has some questions, we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions.
Okay. Is there any questions on any of the contracts? Mr. Patton has reviewed all of these contracts, and he has assured us that we are covered pretty well with all of them, correct, Mr. Patton?
Yes, sir.
I noticed you took a deep breath there for a second.
Well, you know, the Azure contract, I mean, in all honesty, you know, there are some issues there, you know, that the board needs to consider thoroughly, but we've done the best that we can in assuring that we're covered, and, you know, that the board's indemnified, you know, from incidents that could happen in flight.
Okay.
And we discussed this during committee meeting, and we went over all the possibilities and felt in the best interest of the students, this contract was as sound as we're gonna get it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll take all of these contracts all together. Is there any further discussion? All right. Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All of those contracts are approved. Thank you, Ms. Boston. All right, let's see. Let me get caught up. Okay, now, next is the Safety Committee. Ms. Hamby, do you have anything to report?
I didn't have a meeting, but I was tasked last month, or the last board meeting that we had to look into, trying to find out what we can do about the triangle at Homestead. I have not received any information back from the state or the county as far as what could possibly be done. But I do know, according to what I read in the paper, TDOT is working on the triangle, and so I'm not sure what all their plans are. I know they've got a huge plan, and also I believe that the principal of Homestead is also working on this and looking into it.
Did Bo go out?
But if I may, yes, Mr. Magnuson and Ms. Edmonds have been working for the past several weeks to evaluate the situation, and for the past 3 weeks, they have maintained data. The administration has indicated there has not been a time that traffic has been backed up on the school property within the last 3 weeks. When the bell rang, so there was like no traffic backed up in the Homestead parking area drive-through. 2 of the 14 days that they evaluated, traffic had been backed up on the main highway, but there was no backup within the school parking drive itself. We will continue to monitor this, and hopefully we'll have more information forthcoming about what the state plans to do, because it would be a huge benefit.
Did they have any suggestions on, because I think the 2 individuals that spoke was more concerned about backed up on 127 and
Than
68
what was in the
than on the school property.
yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, Dr. Mack.
I was just going to say that traffic at this moment, I mean, because those are folks going to work.
So it's none of ours.
It's not.
It's a
right.
mixture.
I mean, it's a mixture. I mean, it might be someone trying to get into the school, but as far as from when they entered that long drive, when the bell rang, it was clear. So
I went out there. We had our meeting on Thursday, so it would have been on the next Tuesday before I could get there. And I went out there. I was there about 6:30, and I watched. And I'll be honest with you, I was amazed at how well the traffic flows and how courteous all the different drivers were, allowing people in and out of different areas. And it backed up on 127. That was the side I concentrated on. And it backed up probably starting around 7:30, 7:40. It started backing up. It didn't get all the way to the Homestead Church on that day. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't do it on other times, but it did not on the day I was there. And they talked about people getting on the shoulder to drive to get in, and I only saw 3. I saw 3 vehicles do that, but that was at 7:45 whenever they did that. So,
Well, I don't think we can control people
No.
going to work.
No, there is nothing that I saw that we could do to help anything on 127. There's nothing, because it's just people going to work. And like I said, I was absolutely amazed at how polite everybody was at allowing people in and out of different areas. And
Would a second entrance help at all? And I don't know, I mean, because they got to.
well,
One
but
around the back and one in the front.
that I don't know. That, that's something the Bo and Miss Edmonds will have to work out and try to figure out. And but I saw people using that back entrance. I don't know who all.
Like little ones are dropping.
That's
Pre-K, okay.
Yeah, that's-
But yeah, I saw people using that back entrance back there, and but to me personally, I don't see anything that we can do any differently than what we're doing to make it any better on 127. Have you seen anything, Bo?
No, sir, I mean, I think it's like you said, the flow on the school property itself is flowing fine. And at the bell time, what was reported to us is there was never a line backed up on school property at bell time. So if you get there right at 7:45, you might get trapped in that 127 traffic, but there's not a line on the school property. I mean, you get there 5-10 minutes earlier, and you're probably not going to have a problem.
Well, there again, we can't prohibit or control people trying to get to work. Okay.
Well, the only, coming south on 127, moving north, the only way to relieve any sort of congestion for parents who are coming north, from the state park, would be to make another access point. But the only way you can make another access point would be to tear down that brick house, which has historic value, and fill in and create a pathway. I don't see it's possible.
It may not be, I mean, I was just, but if they're, at 7:45, if they're getting caught in traffic, then, because you have to stop at the triangle, wait till 68 passes or somebody gives you an okay to go.
You're talking about southbound traffic
Right,
now.
then that's where you're gonna get caught up. If you're bringing a child to school and you get caught into the workforce traffic, we can't resolve that.
Well, and I saw, I don't know if it was the same police officer or if there was two, because there was one at the exit of where they come out from the Homestead School, the driveway. There was a police officer there directing traffic, and I saw a police officer come down to further at the triangle and try to get traffic flowing, coming from the state park from that direction. And he helped quite a bit getting he'd stop this traffic on 68 and let those get out. And I don't know if, like I said, I couldn't tell if it was the same police officer or if it was two different ones.
Sometimes they'll have somebody come and help.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say. If they have an extra, they'll have someone come in.
And like I said, they did an awesome job.
I wonder if we could, Bo, help me out here. Just make a note to the parents and say, this is what we've observed. If you don't want to get caught in the workforce traffic, possibly leave your house 5 or 10 minutes earlier. That might resolve some of the issues.
It's an effort on our part.
Yeah.
That,
I did actually, when I first approached, after y'all were interested in finding out, when I approached the administrator, she was like, what? She was very surprised. She's like, I've never seen any traffic when the bell rings on our property. She thought that was what was being said, that it was backed all the way out, still trying to get into the school. And then she did the survey and watched it for 3 weeks and saw the same thing. Never was there anybody there when the bell went on property.
Yeah, it was all out on 127.
And there's pictures.
And like I said,
what
it was-
I've seen out there is they're talking about putting a light, the state is, I don't know if you've seen that out there, there's like a light and then controlling it that way, which
Which might help a little.
Yeah, there's a, on the intersection of 127 and 68 there, if you're looking toward Dayton or toward the valley, to your right, there's a blind curve there.
Yes.
It's horrible. Even when there's not a lot of traffic, it's hard to see because people come around that at 45 and 55 miles an hour.
Well, does our SRO, he stands at 68, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we don't have anyone on 127 correcting,
Well,
just whenever they have
And
extra.
the main thing is, if he's over there on 68, he's getting his school property cleared. So he can stop traffic and get it empty, and that's why it's working well, like Mr. Freeman said, is he's keeping that flow going over there.
Where on 68 is he? At the entrance?
he's at the
The
exit.
exit.
At the exit. So, but not at the intersection.
Right.
Well, now, like I said, I saw there was a police officer showed up at least 2 different times that came down to the intersection down there at 127 and 68, and he stopped traffic from 68 and got 127 going, and like I said, it worked. And there was, like I said, there was three vehicles that I saw that got on the shoulder, and they were on the shoulder at 7:45.
So they were running behind.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, there are lots of reasons why parents can run behind.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Is there?
Multiple children.
Right.
Yes.
Do it.
All right, next item on the agenda is the Chief Financial Officer's report. Casey, we'll hand it over to you.
All right, so I thought I would start with a couple updates. We have completed our internal school funds audit from last year. We did have one finding this year, and that was that monthly financial reports were not adequately reviewed and corrected. We have corrected this issue since. We had a new bookkeeper and a new principal, and there was no question of any wrongdoing. It was just know better, do better. They didn't really know what they were looking for. So we've done some training there. We had a bookkeeper training, and we were planning a principal training to just get the basics of those financials that they look at the school level. That was the only finding, and I do have the results and all the financial statements in my office if anyone would like to review those. The next update I wanted to talk about was the state funding formula. Dr. Maxwell and I attended the Upper Cumberland Region Town Hall on Tuesday down in Jackson County. It was the last one of 8 that the state was hosting, as they are changing the formula for funding public education, which at first is very exciting and then a little scary on the end. So our BEP formula that has been in place, every budget season we talk about how it's not quite enough, and I think the basic that we need to remember when we talk about funding is it needs to be more, and it needs to stay with public schools. So we didn't learn a lot at the meeting. It was really more of they wanted to hear what people wanted in the new formula. The basics of it, it will be changing from a resource-based formula to a student-based. So they are encouraging and still accepting public comment. We supplied some at the meeting, but the 18 subcommittees are still meeting. They'll meet twice a month for the next 3 months. And they promised at this meeting that every email, every Twitter, every Facebook comment would be passed along to the proper subcommittee for consideration. So I do have an email to share with you. If you would like to share, they're really looking for forward-facing, in the future, what does every student need every day to be successful at school? So if you would like to email them, that email is tnedu.funding@tn.gov. So again, that's tnedu.funding at tn.gov. So they didn't have a model for us to see yet. After some questioning, they did share with us that some states' models that they have shared with their subcommittees are the Maryland model, the Texas model, Massachusetts, and Ohio. And I think they shared one of those was over 2,000 pages. So I'm sure there will be more information to come. But I think the most important thing right now that we can do is for you all to give your personal input. You know, I shared my input as a mom of 3 kids, the wife of a teacher, a former teacher, and as the CFO. So some different perspectives there. I encourage everybody to share your perspective. You know, I thought about what I wanted for my kids and everybody else's kids every day at school. And then I also thought about district-wide, what I know in my position we have to be able to function. Again, obviously all of us wouldn't be here if we weren't stout supporters of public education, and we want more money. You know, one of the things that we have shared is that, you know, our teachers, our schools do wonderful things. Our district does wonderful things on a shoestring budget. And imagine what we could do if given the funding and the chance to really make our public schools right for every kid and to help every kid get what they need. So a little bit about that. If you Google Tennessee education funding, there's a wealth of information. They've got a really strong PR campaign. But I do encourage you to get your voice out there. We will be sharing information with you all. And as Dr. Maxwell said, they do plan on having some specific informational sessions for boards and commissions. One thing that I did learn at the meeting was they did say that it would have a 14 to 16 month runway. So I interpret that even if they decide on a formula when they go back in session in January, that it would be another year before they implement it. Because that gives me a little bit of peace in that it's a big decision to rewrite and go to a totally new model, and we don't want anything to be rushed.
Dupinsky said 2023.
Okay.
Now, when we were in the legislative session, he indicated to us that the bill was not even written yet, and that the subcommittees would come to them, but they were looking at 2023 for this BEP formula. Now, we always start, July 1st with their money, and they start giving us the numbers, April, May, end of May, something like that. He indicated 2023 was what they were looking at. My next question is, what suggestions did you have as a CFO for the BEP formula?
So I took a book and ran out of time and had to, they had to pull me off the mic with the crook. But some of the things, I started when I just really sat down and said, okay, what does every kid need every day, and what does the district need? And I started with the people, and that we have to have enough people to not only show up to fill our teaching jobs, our custodian jobs, our bus drivers, our subs, but we also need higher salaries for our certified staff and our non-certified staff. Mm-hmm. And that needs to be funded from the state at a higher level. Mm-hmm. So that was at the very top of my list. Mental health professionals and nurses should be funded at a minimum at the national standard, but I think if we're rewriting a formula, that we need to use that as our minimal, and we need to do better and go better and build a formula that would hold on a while. But I definitely think, we are very lucky. Our schools each have a school nurse, but the state doesn't fund that. The state funds us a little over 3 nurses, and that partial funds over 3 nurses.
Well, they also only fund so many certified, and then we have over and above that, which we fund.
Exactly, and every single district is in that same boat. So there's a fundamental flaw with how they're figuring that.
Is there going to be a push to fund all certified?
I certainly hope so. I think that was echoed from some other voices in the meeting as well, that we need more funding, more positions, and to really raise the bar to where we're not in that bottom quadrant.
Well, that would be one of my main concerns as a board member, is that if the state gives us a mandate, then they need to fund it. And if they
Exactly.
tell us we need to have X number of teachers, then they need to fund it, and that's not what they're doing right now. It's like you said, we have teachers above and beyond the BEP, but we have them because the state requires us to have them.
Well-
That's where I would be coming from, that I think that they need to, if they're going to require a teacher, then they need to fund it.
Well, and Dupinski, and I think I'm saying that correctly, he's one of the, I think he's actually a state representative. Fairly new, but he is the instigator of all of this. He said his biggest complaint from teachers was that when the state sent to the county a 4.5% raise, that was not passed on to the teachers, because the local boards then have the authority to spread the wealth and to pay some of those certified teachers that we pay
But that
with those funding.
that's where it comes in. It gets tricky, is because they say it's a 4%, but it's a 4% on what they
Just what they fund.
just what they fund, and anybody that we fund above that. I mean, we could give a 4% to just the ones that they fund, but then you're going to leave out about 100 teachers
Well,
that doesn't get a pay raise.
But that was his big push, I think. So if they fund the teachers and they send us a 4% raise, we can smile and pass that along without any problems. So if they will fund the educators that it takes to teach our children, we can do better. I think we can. But just for information purposes, when you're all considering this and sending your comments into the state, Dupinski's push was the teachers get the funding and their raises, and it wasn't going in their pockets. Well, I don't want the responsibility or the pushback from that it's your local board that does it. And right now, that's what we're getting. So if we could, fund our teachers.
And that was another point that was echoed, the unfunded mandates. For example, the Tom Cronin Act deals with PE teachers and the number of minutes that kids have to have PE, but that didn't necessarily come with that extra funding. So that's challenging. Some of the other things were funding full-time RTI teachers and parapros, funding those additional teachers to help reduce class size and meet those mandates that we have. Additional funding for teacher-selected materials, and then also to include those things that are district-level expenses that are really, if they're even mentioned in the BEP funding formula, it's very small. So the things like we couldn't survive without HR, and that's not funded at all in the BEP formula as it is now. Inventory management, to protect our assets and help us keep up with that, that's not funded. We suggested a computer technician at every school, continuing support and expansion of CTE classes, and a couple other people spoke to this point too. While we feel like we've got a lot of money right now that we can use on our maintenance for our buildings and infrastructure, that's a one-time deal, and the needs are greater than that. And the new funding formula should really support something continually to help us upkeep of that, because that's, as we know, that's a huge chunk of our budget. And then, as I mentioned, I'm married to a PE teacher and a coach. So some funding for those people willing to give up their time as far as extracurricular equipment and supplements. I think that should be part of that whole child experience. Please do speak out. I encourage you to really be thoughtful about it and sit down and think, as a board member, as a parent, as a community member, and really give them your input.
I'm sure there's already a lot of ideas and things that have already been decided, but I'm ever the optimist that every voice counts and everybody's opinion is important. And if we raise them, that we will see some improvements.
Casey, could I, and I don't know how easily accessible this information is, but at our board retreat, if we could get the information of, you know, BEP covers this many teachers, we cover this many teachers. How many do we have outside of the BEP funding? Then that will help us sending our voice and our opinions in, because we can be specific to our county.
Right.
You know, how much instructional, you know, material, you know, funding do they send?
Sure.
And things of that nature. If you could kind of work up a little presentation, I think the knowledge would help us in sending in our personal opinions. Because they're going to discuss it, but I don't think any decisions are going to be made until much later. Because they're getting, the BEP, it's so complicated. They just want to make sure they get it right.
Right.
Well, and I heard, I'm sorry, but I heard one gentleman make the comment while we were down there that he was involved in the development of the BEP, and he said it took them 3 years to develop the BEP formula, and he does not see them being able to come up with new formula within the next 6 weeks.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Dubinsky pretty well said it in the 4 legislatures that were there. We'll be lucky to get it in 2023.
Yeah.
And that was kind of their date goal. Don't know if it'll happen.
And don't forget the undercurrent during the leadership conference. A question was asked: is there any reasonable thinking that the legislature would choose to fund more private schools and the lawyers there, Chuck and Scott and Lee, said that is a very, very real consideration given the temperament of the legislature now. There could be a movement to stick in a follow the money, follow the students, right? Wherever the student goes, the money follows kind of formula. So we have to keep that in consideration when we discuss or talk to our legislatures. I know it's public funds, but public funds supporting private schools that don't have the same criteria, that don't have the same salary scales, that don't have the same requirements for students is just totally unfair.
Okay. I think we've discussed that pretty well. Let's go ahead and let Ms. Harris do her statement.
Okay, so the next update is I have met with the state's contracted appraisers for our Rennie property up on 127 North. And it will be a bit of a wait, but the state will be taking that entire lot. I think it's just shy of half an acre for phase 2 of the 127 project. So we expect that the state will bring to the board a formal offer at the earliest February, maybe March. So just FYI, we did meet with them. They've got a timeline, and then the state has another timeline. But they did say it would be a formal offer, and that it would be made to the full board.
But they're going to annex it either way.
Right. Yeah, the whole lot will be taken. So
All the way back?
the whole thing, yep, all the way back.
Yes, it will.
How many acres is that, 2?
It's just shy of half.
Okay.
Yep. All right, so then to the regular stuff, the October financial statements. We're in good shape here. In October, we receipted $5.7 million in revenues for a year-to-date total of $15.7 million against our budget of $56.4. So that's right around where we need to be. And then for our expenditures, we spent in October about 4.1 million for a year-to-date total of 15.9 against our budget of 59.8. So are there any questions there? Okay. This month I did get the sales tax report for us, and it continues to show good things. So Merry Christmas. So you can see there that the November number was 1.1 million, and the budget was just about $1 million. So a little bit of a surplus there, which brings the annual surplus at this point to 451,000. So some very positive numbers, especially if you listen to the news. You know, we're still spending some money in Cumberland County.
Everybody shop local. It helps.
All right, so the next item on the agenda, we had some discussion last time about the Foxfire / Oakley Drive property. We did some research on that. We think the quickest and cheapest way, if the board so wishes, would be to just advertise that for sale without going through a realtor. It would save the realtor fees. And that's what we decided to do with the Baker's Crossroad property. So we could advertise those together, save a little bit of money, and the process would be the same. They would turn in sealed bids for you all to entertain.
Tony, is Mr. Brock agreeable to that method? Not Tony, but Nathan Brock?
Yes, we consulted.
What about you, Tony?
I'm in agreement as well. Let's sell that.
I did think that was something that we would need a vote on just to make it official.
We've already done the Baker's Crossroad property.
When this discussion came up, we put that on hold because we thought we might be able to save some money. And advertisement's about $500. So if we could combine the two, it would save us a little bit of money.
I'll make a motion to advertise.
I've already got Ms. Cargy with a motion
I'll
and Ms.
second.
Boston with a second.
Now, that is including in the Baker's Crossroads, right?
Yes, so that one's already been approved for us to advertise. This would be to approve the Foxfire Oakley Drive property to be advertised as well.
Yeah. All right, is there any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right.
All right,
That
the
passes.
next resolution is a little bit different. We've been approached by some folks from the County Sheriff's Department that heard we were getting rid of some portables. And they are probably interested in taking one of those. They would pay to have it moved. There's a lot of pieces that have to fall into place. But with this resolution, if the board so chooses, it would go ahead and make it to when and if those pieces do fall into place on their end for approval, that they wouldn't be waiting on us to meet again. So it would just be that we would convey a retired portable classroom to the Sheriff's Department for training and other official business. The Sheriff's Department would take the full legal and financial responsibility for moving it with the licensed company.
I make a motion we approve.
Second.
All right. Ms. Hamby with the motion. Mr. Safety, yes, we'll get to the questions in just a second. Mr. Safety with the second. Now, discussion. Ms. Hale.
Don't we use those portables still, or are we entertaining trying to get rid of them?
We were, the plan many years ago was to get rid of all the portables if at all possible. And we've been doing it a little at a time, but I'll let Dr. Maxwell take that question about what's going on right now.
Well, and these are portables that are not being used for students. It's my understanding, correct?
Yeah,
Ms.
they're in
Casey?
rough shape.
Yes.
Okay.
We wouldn't want students in them.
And a lot of the portables that the students are not being used for, they're using them for storage, and yeah, Ms. Cargy.
So this won't have any problem as far as it would have to go on a surplus list and then blah, 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 blah. We would just convey it over and no harm, no foul and.
Right, so we will retire them, and they're gonna come and tour. There's 4 that are up for retirement this cycle, 2 at South and 2 at Homestead. So they're gonna come and tour them and see if there's one they like better than the other, or if they're even interested once they see the whole package.
But we wouldn't normally like sell these on the surplus, or would we normally?
So we do, when we get rid of them, we usually try to advertise them for sale, and then when no one buys them, as in the last 3 years, then if you'll pay, we have to go through a process, but then at that point, if you'll pay, if you want one, if you'll, anyone in the public can pay, I think the last one we had to do $1 for that legal purpose, and then they paid to have it moved.
Great.
Yeah.
And moving is a big expense. It costs anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000.
Yeah, or more. Yeah. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Okay, so the first budget amendment for 141, which is general purpose school funds, this is just the mechanics of putting the money for those CTE middle school grants that you all looked at earlier in the director's report. This is just the mechanics to put the money in the right lines.
Move to approve.
Second.
Ms. Cargy with the motion and Ms. Handy with a second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the next, let's see, the next four are 142 budget amendments. So that means that is in our federal funds, and this is going in our new process of bringing those budget amendments to the board. So there are 4 here. Our federal programs supervisor is here if you have any questions, or we would.
If there's no objection, we'll take all 4 of them on one vote.
I make a motion to approve.
All right. Got Ms. Handy with the motion and Ms. Cargy with the second. Any discussion?
Can I ask one question?
Ma'am.
It says increase expenditures for $30,576.33 consultants. What is that?
I'll defer to Ms. Randolph.
That is giving us the ability to provide professional development support and training for our Title I schools.
Okay, break it down. I know you know what you're talking about. I don't.
That can be anything from our teachers needing additional support and training on implementing our reading series like CKLA or Study Sync for the 6th through 8th grade.
So that's a consultant for instruction?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm good.
Exactly.
That's all I needed.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, our final one is in our 143 fund, our school nutrition, and I'm sure Ms. Hamby would be happy to answer questions if there are any.
I'm gonna make a motion, we approve all of them at once.
I'll second.
All right. Ms. Hamby made the motion, Mr. Safety made the second. All right, we're gonna vote on all 4. All right, all in favor, well, excuse me, is there any discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Okay.
All right, that's, okay, now, before, well, no, we'll go ahead and do the consent agenda. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. All right, Ms. Cargy with the motion to approve, Mr. Brock with the second. Let me get caught up here. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, consent agenda is passed. Next item is old business, and I'll take, hang on before.
Never mind, sorry.
Well, did I skip something?
No.
Okay.
I thought you did, but you didn't.
Okay, all right. Mr. King had to step out, and he has requested that I read this. He wants it in the record. Okay, so this will take me a couple of minutes to read this, but anyway, this is Mr. King's report of training for Mr. Chris King. On October 28th and 29th, 2021, I attended the TSBA new school board member orientation training in Nashville. During the 2 days of required training, the standard information was presented, all of which I had already been trained on, but with the added benefit of interaction with other board members from across the state. There were diverse groups represented, which included retired educators, doctors, ministers, college professors, electricians, UPS workers, parents, business owners, and farmers. Even though all board members have been, there were 3 important takeaways that I share. 1, the TSBA and board members from across the state discussed at length the importance of having a strong and comprehensive CTE program as the critical component to the appropriate education for a large majority of our graduates. For the last 70-plus years, education has pushed test scores and 4-year college degrees when 75% of the jobs don't need or want that. To meet the needs for employers and therefore the students, we should be getting students, parents, administrators, counselors, and boards to focus on careers instead of universities. And he has in quotations down here, it says, of course, students realistically planning on specific careers requiring a degree like teaching, medical professionals, attorneys, engineers, etc., should be provided everything they need to be well prepared. We need to keep middle college and expand it. It takes years of work and dedicated dollars to build the faculty, facilities, and equipment that develops an awareness and a productive district program that has everyone valuing work-based programs and curriculum that prepare students for career readiness and industrial certifications. I listened to how other systems were desperately scrambling to revise and expand their CTE programs and knew we were in great shape already, but still have some challenges to consider and growth to achieve. Number 2, the importance of realizing that we are elected public officials and should never make personal decisions or make personal attacks because as individuals, we are not empowered to do anything. We vote to actions as a board. Our meetings are designed to be professional business meetings, not personal, disoriented, unruly argument sessions. We are to have the common sense and integrity to make motions, demonstrate proper discussion, and vote as representatives of all of our constituents for the good of everyone, with students first. Number 3, the legislature was in special session with many education issues, several passed, and some that have a dramatic effect on the future. Fasten your seatbelts.
And then that will need to go to Tabitha for.
Yes, I'll make sure she gets it. But yes, he wanted that read into the minutes. My microphone got turned off. Yes.
Before we go to old business, I just wanted to recognize our representative from Stone Memorial, Miss Ellie's here.
Yeah, I kind of let that slip. I forgot to we want to.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for being here. All right, is there any other old business? Okay. Questions from the media?
Is that me?
That's you.
No, thank you for the meal. It was very good. No questions.
Okay.
Stay.
All right. I've got Ms. Cargy has made a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Hallelujah.
Okay, I got several. All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Stay around.
You bless
Wow. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Merry Christmas to everybody, and Happy Hanukkah to everybody, and safe trips, safe travels, Mr. Safety.
This is his water.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you for considering.